Hey guys, what's up? It's Matt. It is the RYLA Routine session episode 13 with Katy. Katy, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you. The fan favorite in the Hancock household. We won't tell anybody else until they watch this. Is Katy from Grove. Um, so yeah, the Hancock household loves them some Katy. Expect the two girls. Maddox is yet to be determined, but the two girls love them some Katy. Katy is a fan favorite for Sawyer and Devin. So we we uh we appreciate it some Katy. So Katy, Grove, Oklahoma. Tell us how you found out about camp.
So it was my junior year of high school. I was in an AP English class, and we had our teacher for that was our Interact sponsor as well, which I had just joined that year. And we had Grove is notorious for sending a lot of kids usually. We didn't this
Yep.
last October, but normally we send a whole lot of kids. And so I knew a lot of the seniors that had went the year before, and they had come and like talked to our class, and I was like, "Oh, that kind of sounds interesting. Like I'll sign up." And at the time we were doing it where we did applications and we had to interview to go to camp. And so I went through the interview process, did everything, and then I went to camp and honestly didn't want to get off the bus at first. And the first couple days I was not the best, but then I fell in love and it just became my favorite place.
So Grove, Oklahoma is an interesting spot. Grove as a club, and I was actually looking at this today just because I was doing some stuff. I'm headed to Northwest Arkansas next week to do a couple of things for the Y, and was going to stop by Bentonville's Rotary Club. The the Grove Rotary Club, I think, has the third most members out of all 70 clubs in the district. There's like 180 some odd members of Rotary in Grove. Grove is a huge, huge club. And you're right, Grove has had a tradition and a history and path of sending a lot of kids. They do great jobs as a club fundraising.
Hmm.
Interesting you mentioned Interact because they were one of the clubs that started Interact kind of through the support of early RYLA. There were only like 7 clubs back in 2012 that had an Interact club. And
Hmm.
then by the time we get to like 18, we're in the 30s. Pandemic affected some of those, but being
Yeah.
an Interact participant and then finding out, hey, I'm going to camp. You talked about not wanting to get off the bus. And I think that if you listened last week, we talked a little bit with the conversation around this uncomfortable muscle and this challenge by choice.
Hmm.
And I don't want to go back down that path, but I do want to ask, like, what was your first impression of camp?
Um, it was very just high energy, a lot of people, and I'm very much an introvert. I don't usually like get out of my shell very much. I have trouble doing that, and so I just saw it, and then like it like set in that I was like, "Oh, I'm not gonna be with anyone from my school." Like
Yeah,
I I mean, we had enough people at Grove. I was with one other person, but me and him weren't really friends. Like before when we went to camp, we were acquaintances because Grove's a smaller school, but
right.
we weren't like friends in any way. And so like I was just like, "Oh, I'm going to have to interact with a whole lot of people, and I don't know how I'm gonna do this." And I was just like, I don't wanna go, I don't wanna do this. And they were like, "You're going through the tunnel." And my best friend, like, dragged me through it, and I was like, "Okay, I guess we're doing this." And then we actually went to lunch, and my chief from my tribe that year, I was on Checker Tribe, and Kate, she came over, like, she was walking around doing her rounds, and she came over and, like, she saw my, like, name tag with my, tribe, and she goes, "I'm your chief." And she was just very nice and kind, and I think she was one of the ones that, like, helped push me so much, and I know for a fact if I hadn't had her as my chief, I probably wouldn't be coming back anymore. I wouldn't have come back as a CIT even.
Yeah. So that was your camper year was 17, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So you hit 18, 19, and then you were with us both October and March this year, which is just awesome to me. Again, there's this group, and as we finished up leadership, uh, as a title, finished up leadership, and then hit Mike Addington, and now I'm kind of working through these Chiefs that I feel like are like on the cusp of like we needed you so bad to be a Chief that
Mhm.
we couldn't put you anywhere else because coming back in
Yeah.
March we had to have the numbers we had to have.
Yep.
And then you look at October with the growth, and we'll continue to see growth on that side of things. Having the opportunity to continue to serve is just awesome. And I know the 4 years you've served plus your camper year, you're looking at 5 years of having an opportunity to be around RYLA.
Mhm.
What's your favorite thing about RYLA? Like what's your sweet spot when it comes to RYLA? What do you think is just the greatest thing about it?
Honestly, I think it's just watching. Like, like I said, my camper year wasn't the best, and so when I came back my CIT year, I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna push myself more, but I'm also gonna be there for my campers."
Right.
And one of the things that I love, like, time and time again, one of my favorite things coming back is seeing all my past campers and seeing what all they've accomplished, like, what difference we've made in their lives. And then, like, I've had multiple ones come back as CITs and then chiefs, and it's just so fulfilling watching them. And I know it doesn't always happen at RYLA, but a lot of them, like, I had a girl in March, she was very hard. She was from McLean, had a hard time with a lot of things. I remember I broke down crying. Like Friday at dinner, I was just broke down
Yeah.
crying. Took me outside, had to calm down. And she talked to me on Sunday after we were leaving, like, as we were going to, like, our last session, and she was like, "I'm sorry for what I've done." She's like, You've just been trying to be there for me, and I really do appreciate it, and you have made a difference in me." And her affirmation card to me was, like, front and back, and it was just that's what keeps me coming back, is the changes that I can make in their lives.
Yeah. So talk about, you're the first person, in a month or so, a couple months, to talk about the affirmation cards. Um, I think, again, that was when I was talking to Aaron, like on the second or third episode, it was like, hey, by the way, that was one thing Aaron was like, you got to continue the affirmation cards. You got to continue the flag. Like, you cannot touch those things if you're going to take
Mhm.
over this thing. And I'm extremely glad I sit here, when I shoot this, you know, like working on a new backdrop, but like the backdrop I use is like hanging over Maddox's bed. Like I shoot this in Maddox's bedroom. And like I look over, like I'm looking over at, like, he's got a bookshelf over here, and there's
Mhm.
literally an affirmation card
Mhm.
from camp that's like in the bookshelf that's like pinned to it.
Oh, I love it.
So like I go to that, like the power. I think
Mhm.
I think that like I have affirmation. That's what I was telling Aaron. I have affirmation cards in my car. I have affirmation cards on my desk. I have affirmation cards in my closet, like where
Mhm.
my socks and stuff are. Like they're sitting right there. Um,
Mhm.
and I think people, if you haven't been to RYLA, and you talk about the affirmation cards, it's hard to understand the power.
Yeah.
Like, tell me, I mean, you're talking about that affirmation card. Tell me about, like,
Mhm.
you've got 5 camps of affirmation cards. Like,
Yep.
I mean, you can tell me, Matt, like, I don't even know where they're at. I doubt that's the case. But
No, I
like,
know
what's the power of not just telling somebody, but having that reaffirmed in writing that you can walk away with? What makes that so powerful?
For me, it's something that, because it's reaffirmed in writing, it's something that I can keep going back to whenever I need it. I have one from my camper year from one of my best friends on the tribe. His name was Matt also, and he wrote me one. Like, he had small handwriting, and it was at the time we still had, like, lined cards,
Yeah.
and it was like 2 lines per line, like, that he wrote, and it was, like, completely, like, filled, and I still read it because it makes me so happy. Like, when I'm having a hard day, it's one of my favorite ones to read. It just talks about how, he talks about how, like, kind and nice, and, like, how I have a beautiful soul, and that, like, and all these things, and it's things that, like, I've struggled with, and, like, so, like, there's things that I struggle with and I don't see in myself, and then I get to go and I read all these affirmation cards, and it happens every year, and I cry every year at them, and they're ones that I just keep in a stack. I have them, in my nightstand, just in a stack, so whenever I need them, I can pull them out and find which ones I want and read whichever one I find, and some of them are really funny, and I really like those too.
Well, what's interesting is I think for some kids it's the first time that somebody tells them something that's not related to a skill or ability.
Yeah.
Like, um, you know, anybody that's been to camp understands that Friday night, we hit head on, agree, disagree, and then we go into really
Mhm.
be kind of teeing up a new day after we've talked about our thumbprint.
Yeah.
Um, and I talk about Caleb Clare, and I talk about this kid from Cassville, Missouri, that
Yeah.
unfortunately passes away, and his mom goes to his college dorm room, and the thing she sees is a stack of index cards, and the first index card says, "Caleb, thank you for being an investor." Like, that's not thank you, Caleb, for being good at a guitar, or good at
No.
singing, or good at
Mhm.
whatever, at a something that's part of your talent shield.
Yeah.
It's not that. It's an action.
No.
It's an action. It's something it's, we keep hearing about kindness. Like, this is 13 sessions of the RYLA routine. In 13 sessions, we have heard somebody was kind to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And the world we live in just doesn't, we know that doesn't provide that. So whenever I put that in
No.
writing, and you've got all these affirmation cards, I think it'd be really cool. Like, I think that'd be I don't know how I'd figure that out, but like to have, you get 2,143 alumni. It'd be really cool to see, like, how many people can I get to send me a picture of your affirmation cards? Because the power of that, talking to a Rotary Club, I think
Mm-hmm.
would be really powerful to say,
I agree.
this is the 365 impact. Katy, 5 years, Katy from 2017 still has her camper cards. Aaron from 2000 whatever 9 or
Yeah.
something crazy, she's still hanging on to hers. And
Mm-hmm.
so, I mean, I've been doing camp since 2012, and I've got, like I said, I've got them everywhere.
Yeah.
And there are days that even as a chief, as an officer, as a chief growth and strategy officer for the YMCA, that I'm successful, I still go back to those things. I still go back to
Mm-hmm.
my original New Day that's in my office, because I need that kind of, sometimes we need that lift and there's nobody standing there to physically give it to us.
Yep. Yeah, it's one of my definitely one of my favorite things that we do. And you talked about like agree, disagree. That definitely is like one of my favorite activities we do. But the affirmation cards, I think, are one of the best things that at camp that we do, just because it is something that is in writing. It's in a physical form that you can keep going back to when you need it. And it's about the person you are. It's not, like you said, it's not about your talent shield and everything. It's about the person you are and who you deem to be your true self usually. I
Yeah.
feel like at RYLA, you get to come out of your shell, you get to be your true self. It's one of my favorite things is like getting these kids to open up. And like for me, it was me opening up and learning, hey, it's okay to be weird. It's okay to be fun. It's okay to be loud. You get to be your true self. And so then these people who get to see that like they give you basically compliments and affirmations about that, about your true self. And it's one of those things like, oh, I am valued. I am needed.
Right. What do you mentioned agree, disagree being, a great, your favorite camp activity. Um,
Hmm.
what makes it great? What's the secret sauce in agree, disagree that, now that you've seen it 5 times, you saw it as a camper, and then kind of like I joke, like last with
Hmm.
Cade last week, it's like the Wizard of Oz. Then all of a sudden you see it as a CIT and you go, oh, there's a plan and
Hmm.
a path. Like that's why we're doing what we're doing. Like, what's the secret sauce for agree, disagree?
Um, for me, uh, it's just I think it's great that when we do it at camp, we've already built those bonds. And so like a lot of times I wouldn't associate with people that disagree with me, just because of who I am. Like, and it's not like I don't try to not like see their way, but it's something that really helped me see, oh, we can respect each other's opinions while still being like and still be friends, but disagree with each other and it be okay. It was the first time I think I had seen that, like, especially my camper year, it was the first time I'd really seen that happen, like, "Oh, we can disagree about stuff and still be friends, and we can still respect each other as people." And so, like, I think it was in March, my campers that year in March were like, because I asked them about it, I was like, "What did you guys like about that?" And they were like, "I think it was great." They were like, "I would have never ever associated with this guy on our tribe, like, very religious, just wasn't someone like some of us would associate with you." They were like, I never would have associated with him, but because of his beliefs, but I've grown to know him already as like a person, as who he is as a human being and what he values. And I know that we can disagree on our beliefs, but still respect each other and still be friends. And I think that's one of the best parts about it. I love that about it. I think it's one of my favorite things.
What's you talk about camp, and we're talking about being a camper to a CIT to achieve.
Hmm.
You've now come back. Um, Basically, you were a CIT in 18, chief in
Hmm.
19, chief, 3 years as a chief.
Yeah.
I'm going to put you on the spot and ask you a question that I haven't asked anybody else.
Okay.
Being a chief in 2019 pre-pandemic versus being a chief the past 2 camps, we've talked a lot, especially in the CI in the chief meetings and the staff meetings, about really what we're kind of seeing as the difference in these youth.
Mhm.
Um, what's your take on that? Like, because again, you saw kids at 19 when you were at 18. You know, you're personally a as
Is
a
it
chief, you're a 19-year-old young lady, and now you come back
Mhm.
and you've got, we're talking 2023, and 4 years later, you're a 23-year-old young lady. You know,
Mhm.
4 years makes a big, or 3 years makes a big difference, and the pandemic made a big difference. Like,
Yeah.
what was the biggest difference in the campers? Like, because we've had these conversations a little bit, but I'm putting you on the spot. Like, what's the
Mhm.
biggest difference you saw in campers at camp pre-pandemic versus today?
I think, um, pre-pandemic, they were a little bit less anxious, maybe, like, less scared. They were more they knew how to communicate better because they had had that all those years in high school already, like, built it into their like, already, and, like, had all the socialization that we need. And so, like, post-pandemic, it was harder. We were having to break them out of their shells more. I had one kid, he in March, he did not talk at all. I think I heard him mutter 5 words, and I got to talk to his sponsor that was there as a chaperone, and she was like, he came up to me after because we won the Amazing Race, and she was like, he came up to me after that and, like, cried to me, and, like, he was so happy, and I was like, "Whoa, okay, so I am doing something."
Yeah,
But, like, it's just one of those things. They're like, it's it was definitely different, like, it's something that oops, they, didn't we talked about it in March, they didn't know how to just have conversations with people, like, normal everyday conversations, so we did, like, the conversation stuff and the observatory stuff, and it was something that, like, watching them have those conversations, and I was like, "Okay, so they can do this, they just needed to be able to focus on just that."
yeah,
And it's just they're a little bit more blunt coming into
yeah,
2023, and that could have been my age difference, like, before I was their age, and, like,
sure,
I was an 18-year-old freshman in college whenever I was a chief the first year, and so, like, I got along with all my camper I was, like, the same age as them. I had already like, I had had experiences close to theirs with recently, and so, like, coming back in 2023 as a 22-year-old, I was just like, I don't know how to relate to these kids anymore."
yeah,
Like, and so it was something that, like, we had to figure out together. A lot of us chiefs, we were like, "Hey, how do we do this? Like, how do we figure out how to relate to these kids and keep them and push them out of their comfort zones without pushing them too far? How do we
sure,
pull them to where we want them to be, challenge by choice, have them come with us, without pulling them too far or pushing them past their limits." It was a balancing act almost that we had to find. That wasn't like the case before. It's one of those things that we really had to figure it out. And especially whenever like being only having like one or two chiefs per tribe and then like mate and then like in October we had CITs too, but still it's you're those most of those were from March's camp, and so they're still like it's a lot of them we were having to pull them still too and push them to being how onto the other side of things, how to be a CIT, how to lead a tribe. And it was a lot different, but I still really enjoyed it and I still loved it.
yeah. I had a conversation. So last Saturday, I had an opportunity through the Y. We were the location for the Scry lock-in, which was all the youth exchange students from basically Canada to Texas, for the
Mhm.
central part of the U.S. Um, come into Tulsa for a 2-day training, and like Saturday night they do like a big lock-in, and they've done it the past 2 years at the Y. So I just volunteer and say, sure, we do at the Y. They pay us, and then I go work as the Y
Mm.
employee that's on salary because I can go
Yeah.
there. I'm a Rotarian too, and
Yeah.
two things that were really cool that I acknowledged. One was I had on my New Day hoodie, and there
Mhm.
were 5 youth exchange students that went to camp with us in October.
Oh,
And like the
yeah.
first girl that saw me, she literally like stood in front of me, jaw on the ground, like couldn't remember my name, but was like, "You're the guy." And I was like, "What guy?" And she goes, "You're the guy. You're the guy. Like that shirt is you. Like that New Day, like you." And she was like, "It's awesome." And she started telling all these people about it, about her time at RYLA. And what she got to was she got to a place where she was pushed a little bit. Um,
Mhm.
And so I think for me, I also then the second awesome thing is I had about 45 minutes of sitting there and talking to a Rotarian from Norman, Oklahoma, who is
Mhm.
kind of the head of this kind of the youth exchange thing for the lock-in. And we talked about just in his 18 years of youth exchange, how kids have changed,
Mhm.
of course. But
Yeah.
what I also had a conversation with John Raines, who's a Tulsa Rotarian that was a chaperone for us the past 2 October and March, and his wife Kathy came as
Mhm.
a chaperone this past October as well. I told John at lunch last Thursday the same thing I told the guy from Norman. I said, I've got a 93-year-old grandmother. My grandmother, so it's 2024. My grandmother was born in the 20s, early 30s.
Mhm.
And think about all the things that that person has seen change. Like I'm
Yeah.
talking about change, and really it's change management. Like, because grandma saw a TV,
Yeah.
grandma saw a car, grandma
Mhm.
saw information take days to get to you.
Yeah.
You had to write a letter. If you
Yep.
were overseas in the war, you had to write a letter home. If you if you were in Dallas, I mean, like you go back to like the abolishment, even previous that I was telling them the abolishment of slavery, like the Emancipation Proclamation signed by the president, but yet there's still slavery in Texas on the day of, because that's why Juneteenth is celebrated, because the information didn't
Mhm.
get from Washington D.C. to Texas like this.
Nope.
And so grandma then sees a car, then grandma then sees, the mail, then all of a sudden there's a phone, a telephone, by the way there's a pager, by the way there's a cell phone, by the way there's a computer in your hand today, that
Yep.
the minute something happens,
You know.
communication,
Yep.
right? And so what I was telling those guys, and it's my opinion, it's change management. It's these kids' minds, what the and it's really post pandemic for me. Your mind, you and I have
Mhm.
accepted change, and we've grown with change happening so rapidly. Like in my time, change was rapid.
Yeah.
From a cassette to a Walkman to an MP3 player to a phone that I could hold music on, it was
Yep.
rapid, right? In my
Mhm.
teens, that was movement of music.
Yeah.
These kids today, post pandemic, are affected by every single form of communication is instantaneous.
Yep.
And so, like, how do I digest all that? Me and you 20 years ago couldn't do what we're doing now. You couldn't sit in
Mhm.
Grove and me sitting in Skytook and have a conversation this way, and then I couldn't upload it and then share it with the world. Couldn't do it.
No, not at all.
But these kids get through a pandemic where the world is changing so rapidly.
Yeah.
There's difference amongst Republican, Democrat, whatever, so rapid. And
Mhm.
what I said was, when you looked at the past and how we're shaped, what I think this change management piece comes down to, Katy, your camper year, when we did the diversity piece, and you go
Mhm.
around the room and you pick your 1, 2, and 3, March was the first year where religion wasn't 90% of the room.
Yeah. It was insane. I was kind of shocked.
Pre-pandemic, 90% of the rooms, number one, was religion.
Yep.
Today, it went, but I think part of the reason it did that is because of how quick things change. And
Yep.
there's change, and the influence of change.
Yeah.
The influence of change is coming at us much more rapid. And so
Definitely.
for me, the biggest variance of 23 to your camper year, which is 6 years difference,
Mhm.
really comes down to the fact that, yes, the pandemic happened, but the pandemic pushed so much at kids,
Yeah.
where they were a high school junior, or they were these kids were eighth, and some of them, they were eighth graders during the pandemic.
Yeah.
They were in the most critical time of communication and the most critical time of their teenage life, where they needed to be around and socialize and understand the world.
Yep.
They went to a house and sat in front of a computer and learned. I mean, I
Do
literally
this.
watch people that cannot, that when they speak, can't do anything other than look straight ahead.
Yeah.
Like they can't turn their head and have a conversation with another adult when they present off of a PowerPoint. Like they still think they're standing in front of a computer.
Yeah.
So I think everything you said, it's this change management piece, and it's going to take some time. I mean, it's gonna take us a few years, I think, for these kids in our communities to really, and they may not go back to that because this
No.
thing's only going to get smarter.
Oh yeah.
It's only going to get faster. It's only going to get faster. It's only going to get bolder, you know.
Yep.
And so I think change management's a huge piece of this. I think it's when we see what happens with kids. And so then when you try to like sit down and not get deep, but get deep around a
Mm-hmm.
mission, around a talent shield, their minds already trying to think ahead. When
Yeah.
at camp, we're actually trying to slow things down.
Yep.
Like we're not running. Ron's not running at things at 500 miles an hour.
No.
When we're talking agree disagree, we're giving it time. You
Mm-hmm.
know, um, and I think that matters. I think that for these kids, they're challenged in that they're expected to have the answer.
Yeah.
They think they have to have the answer, and in
They
reality,
think they have to, and they think I have to have it really quickly too, because that's how information comes to them, is really quickly.
and it's just not where we're at. That's where we're at. But I think that's a big difference. I think that's a big difference in where we were at in 16, 17 to where, frankly, where we're at today. And I don't
Yeah.
think it'll autocorrect itself. I think
No.
we just have to tell kids at RYLA, it's okay to take your time
Mhm.
because it's like baking a cake. It's not a fast process. Katie, it
Yeah.
takes 2 days for you to understand that this is the right place for you to be.
Yep.
You know, it's baking a cake. It's not
Yep.
it's not instantaneous. You know,
Not at
but
all.
we live in a world where we expect instantaneous results and instantaneous feedback is provided. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I ask you that question. I know I put you on the spot, but I think it's a very important part of where we're at because you know if we look to October, you know, here we go, we'll hit February, and we're
Yep.
8 months away from another one, and the world's moving fast.
It is, and it's just gonna keep moving and keep changing, hopefully
But
for the better.
it's that change. It's that change management piece. It's accepting and understanding that things will change. That's the only
Yeah.
thing about change. You know,
Yep.
it's going to change. You know, the joke with Kate last week is we got to be comfortable being uncomfortable,
Yeah.
and
We
that's
really do. That was the thing that I had to figure out for myself when I went there, because I was like, "I don't know what to do." And I think the trust fall was really the point where I was like, "Oh, okay, I'm really uncomfortable doing this." And like I said, my chief, amazing, amazing woman. I love her to death. And she's just like, "You can do this." And so I did it because she kept encouraging me. And then that was like the moment I was like, "Oh, so that's what it's like being uncomfortable." And being okay being uncomfortable. Like, oh, I
right.
pushed myself and I fine. Everything's fine. Everything's good. The world's gonna keep moving. Nothing happened to me. I'm fine.
Yeah. What do you I mean, to kind of tie this thing up, what do you think? I mean, like, what's your biggest like aha about camp? Like, what do people? Why do you keep coming back? What's the you know what do people need to know?
I think for me, I think like I said earlier, I think it's a place where you can come and there are no restrictions, limits, or anything put onto you. Everyone's just there to encourage you to be the best you can be. They're trying to pull you along, challenge by choice, but we're trying to make you a better person by pushing you out of your limits, but not pushing you too far. It's one of those things that I think it's the best place on earth, mainly because it's my favorite place that I feel like no matter what, I can always be myself. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter what's going on around me. I can always be who I am, loud, energetic, hanging out with your kids, like whatever it is. It's one of those things that I love doing.
Well, I will tell you that I think you know that's a few weeks now of people saying it's you know the best place on earth, and I again said it last week. You want to have a fun time, go to Six Flags. If you want to change a life, go to RYLA. I just think that's like, and life changing is such a broad term, and like, but I think that nobody leaves RYLA for the worse. I mean, like it just nobody walks away worse than they were
No,
when they got there. I mean, that's the real
definitely not.
reality. And in many times, you know, it's that cake. Sometimes it takes, you know, 30 days for us to go, I missed it. Or, oh, I didn't get it. I didn't get everything. But then you come back like, go back as a CIT, and you're like, oh my gosh, how did I not get that out of that in that one activity? Like, why did
Mhm.
I guess I just missed it as a camper.
Yeah.
But I think that every year we come back, every year we serve, we see something, we see opportunities, and opportunities to grow and opportunities to serve better. Um,
Mhm.
and I can tell you that we're best and better because you're a part of our team. We're best and better because uh, it doesn't cost anything to be kind.
No, it doesn't.
And I think we talk about smiles being free. Well, kindness is free.
Yes.
That's really what it's about. The smile is like the physical presence of it,
Yeah.
but it doesn't cost us anything to care.
No, no, it
It,
doesn't. I think
it
that's a
really
big
doesn't.
thing that we're missing in this world today too, is
It doesn't cost
empathy
us
for
anything to
others.
care. And when somebody gives me that affirmation card, it's a daily reminder that people care. It's a daily reminder that my thumbprint matters. And it's a daily reminder that today is an opportunity. And I think that those affirmation cards are such an important part for so many people because it does just that. It's the reminder when Katy is an adult, Katy's got to wake up and go to a job, and Katy's got to go out and provide for herself, to provide for others. And as a part of
Mhm.
that, I may need that day where I need a pat on the back and there's nobody there to pat me on the back. What I do know
Yep.
also is that many times in RYLA, we have that group through somebody else. We have that group through a text, or I could send, people
Mhm.
still keep in touch with their tribes. And I know that that's an
Yep.
opportunity, but that affirmation card is such a powerful thing on a little 3x5 sheet of paper
Mhm.
that 110% gives you a boost. If
Yep.
anything, it gives you it's a warm feeling in your heart because somebody cared and somebody took time to write something kind.
Yep.
And so the kindness piece is just phenomenal. And again, it doesn't cost anything.
Yep.
I'm gonna get rid of smiles are free. I'm gonna get rid of every one of those shirts, and we're going to kindness is free.
Mhm.
Something I don't know. We got to figure out something for kindness because that continues to be a theme out of all 13 of these is so far is kindness.
Yeah.
And I could not agree more. Um, and I couldn't agree more with the fact that you bring that to camp. You bring that to everybody you come in contact with. So I want to tell you I appreciate you for that. Um, Anything else as we wrap this thing up you want to share?
No, I think that's it. I think we covered about everything.
Awesome, awesome. Well, hey guys, this is episode 13, 14 coming at you next week. This is Katy. I'm Matt. We appreciate you so very much. You're awesome. Be kind. Have an awesome, awesome, awesome week and stay blessed.